There are 5 justices who have voted to say that the 14th Amendment's citizenship clause protects birthright citizenship as we have long understood it. A 6th justice, Justice Kavanaugh, joins the opinion in part, but not in whole. And let me read to you his stunning first paragraph. He says that the executive order that's at issue here establishes new exceptions to birthright citizenship for children born to foreign citizens unlawfully or temporarily in the country. That the court today holds that the order violates the 14th Amendment. I respectfully disagree with the court's constitutional holding. In my view, the executive order doesn't violate the 14th Amendment, but it does contravene a federal statute. And then Justice Kavanaugh goes out of his way to say, consistent with the 14th Amendment, Congress could amend that statute or otherwise enact new legislation establishing exceptions to birthright citizenship for children born to foreign citizens unlawfully or temporarily in the country, but Congress has not yet done so. In other words, 5 justices saying the Constitution is the Constitution is the Constitution, and Justice Kavanaugh saying, yeah, I agree with them in terms of the state of federal law, but if Congress wants to change this,
Y'all, the Supreme Court just told Donald Trump no on birthright citizenship. This is Black Girls Politicking. I'm Michaela. Let's talk about it. In a 6-3 decision, the court blocked his attempt to limit citizenship at birth for people born on U.S. soil, calling out the executive order that he signed on day 1 of his second term unconstitutional. Chief Justice Roberts wrote the majority opinion, joined by Justices Sotomayor, Kagan, Barrett, and Jackson, with Justice Kavanaugh concurring the judgment to round out the 6. The court grounded the ruling in over 160 years of precedent, tracing the right back to the English common law and the landmark 1898 case Wong Kim Ark. Roberts put it plainly, citizenship then and now was the right to have rights. Justice Jackson wrote separately, with Sotomayor joining a part of it, to push back on the dissent's framing of who the 14th Amendment was really for. She argued the Reconstruction Amendments were an anti-caste, anti-subordination reset for the nation, not a narrow fix limited to one group's history. Now, let's talk about the dissent breakdown, because as y'all know, them dissentants be dissenting. Justice Thomas, joined by Gorsuch, argued the 14th Amendment was specifically written for freed Black Americans, those who had no other homeland and owed no allegiance to any foreign power, not as a universal guarantee to everyone born here. Justice Alito filed his own dissent, leaning on a different domicile-based theory of who actually counts as subject to U.S. jurisdiction. Finally, Justice Gorsuch also filed a separate dissent on top of joining Justice Clarence Thomas. The order would have denied automatic citizenship to roughly 255,000 babies a year, per the Migration Policy Institute. It never actually took effect. Lower courts blocked it immediately after Trump signed it. This is the 3rd major loss for this administration at SCOTUS this year, following the tariff ruling in February and this week's campaign finance decision. Crowds gathered outside of the court when the ruling dropped. The fight over who gets to be American isn't over, but today the text of the Constitution held its ground. This is Black Girls Politicking. I'm Michaela. Until next time, bye y'all.
I'm nervous as fuck today. I'm not gonna lie to you. I am nail-bitingly nervous today. I don't know if they're going to be ruling on birthright citizenship today, but I feel like they are. And I don't know, y'all. I'm sweating. I'm nervous as fuck. Because if they overturn this shit, if they do something, if they let Donald Trump get his way, there will be blood running in the streets. No one's going to be safe. Not a politician, not a lawmaker, not a congressman. It's going to be...
Did y'all know the Supreme Court just ruled in favor of Trump? So if you are born in the Americas and your parents were not born in the Americas and are not citizens, you've got to go. I'm just thoroughly appalled by this shit. Like the Supreme Court is supposed to uphold the Constitution, and they're not at all. That goes directly against the 4th Amendment. A 6-3 ruling allows President Trump to end birthright citizenship in some parts of the country, but stop the order from taking effect for 30 days. What is 30 days gonna do? A 6-3 decision. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Someone in the comments said, what is he going to have ICE agents at the birthing unit in the hospital? What are we going to do?
Massive breaking news right now. The United States Supreme Court has struck down Donald Trump's Birth Right Citizenship executive order, ruling that if you are a child born to undocumented parents in the United States of America, you are in fact a United States citizen, upholding the text of the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution. This is a massive blow for the President of the United States, who has been begging this Supreme Court to uphold his birthright citizenship executive order and essentially change the text of the 14th Amendment. Well, today the court, in a 6-3 decision, said no. Justice Thomas dissented, joined by Alito. Alito and Gorsuch also filed their own dissenting opinions. The majority, Justice Roberts, Justice Kavanaugh, Justice Barrett, and the 3 liberal justices. A massive loss for the President of the United States. He has been waiting for this decision. He has wanted this decision, and well, now he has lost this decision. Follow along for all the news you need to know about. More to come soon.
Racists are going to be angry today as the Supreme Court has rejected Trump's attempt to end birthright citizenship, which is guaranteed by the 14th Amendment. Children born on American soil will continue to be born American citizens, because these people thought they were going to be able to do mass deportations if they ruled against his birthright citizenship. Now, a lot of us were worried that they were going to rule in favor of the birthright citizenship, especially after yesterday where they gave us a few W's, because a lot of the time with the Supreme Court, they will sprinkle a few W's to give you the real cold hard truth of what they want to approve. So it seems like what the Supreme Court's bad ruling today was in regards to trans people in sports. But as far as birthright citizenship and that status being upheld in America, it is there. So expect Donald Trump to be fucking angry, to go on some rants. Mike Johnson already got asked live and he just, and was grumbling. These people were wanting to get anyone that didn't look like them out of this country. And now this is a big derail for what they wanted to do. They are not accomplishing what they wanted with Project 2025. They got some things done, but being able to get everything they wanted done, it's just not happening. And a lot of them are going to be mad because it's like, oh, we have a majority Supreme Court. Why aren't they bending the knee to me, is what Donald Trump is thinking. But at the end of the day, being on the Supreme Court does not mean you're Donald Trump's servant. You need to serve the American people. And at least they did that with birthright citizenship. They suck with most shit, but at least they got birthright citizenship right.
We got a rare win today with the Supreme Court striking down Trump's attack on birthright citizenship. Trump has been trying to end birthright citizenship since he came down that elevator in 2016.
Anybody who looks at this, oh dear.
That the decision is children born in the United States, parents unlawfully or temporarily present, are subject to the jurisdiction of the United States and are citizens at birth under the 14th Amendment Citizenship Clause. What's your reaction to that, Mr. Speaker?
Well,
this is real time.
I need to read the opinion, okay? But obviously that's, I mean, you could say that's a textualist, originalist view. However, I do think that this has been grossly abused in recent years, okay? And that is the case that was being made by the plaintiffs in the case, and we're very sympathetic to that because it is a serious problem. We have it's become a tourism, birthing tourism, they call it, you know, a trend where people will just come and you just come onto the soil and have your child, and then they're able to avail themselves of the welfare state and everything else. It's been abused. It's one of those things that was intended to serve a noble and important purpose and has been thwarted and overused and abused. And so I'm sure that we'll continue to look at that. I mean, I'm sure the conclusion from this opinion is going to be that you got to amend the Constitution to fix that. As we all know, it's a big challenge to amend the Constitution. It's only happened 27 times in our whole nation's history, and the reason is because you got to have 2/3 of both chambers of Congress and 3/4 of the states to ratify. It's usually at least a many years long process and very complicated. We'll see. I'm sure there's going to be lots of discussion about that. I will say I'm very disappointed in that outcome. I think it subjects the country to serious challenges going forward, and we'll have to deal with it.
The Supreme Court just voted to uphold birthright citizenship, and let me just say, thank God. Birthright citizenship is an essential part of our nation. It's who we are. But this doesn't mean that our work is done. There are still 3 Supreme Court justices who voted to allow Trump's executive order to overrule the Constitution, and that is not okay. When I get to the Senate, I'll fight to reform the Supreme Court and ensure that our rights are never in jeopardy.
Baby, Wigs R Us is all in his feelings about the Supreme Court upholding birthright citizenship. He's now saying he's going to go through Congress to get a constitutional amendment. There's a couple of things wrong with this situation. There are 2 ways you can get a constitutional amendment. First, there needs to be a proposal. Then 2/3 of the state and the House must vote on that amendment. It's real tricky because Democrats and Republicans will not agree on this shit. The second is a ratification. That means 3/4 of the states, that's 38 out of 50, must approve this amendment. And you know that shit ain't happening. This man really thinks he's king and doesn't think that he has to follow the rules like everybody else. If I was Republicans at this point, I'd be punching the air because he is really messing it up for y'all come midterms. And yes, I was right about Uncle Ruckus. Yeah, he was one of the 3 justices to vote against birthright citizenship. There's a little rumor going around the Congress. Republicans are trying to get Alito and Thomas to retire early so they can replace them with young, white, conservative justices, which would not bode well for the future of America. But we shall see how this turns out.
The Supreme Court is set to hand down their findings on birthright citizenship soon. Here's why that's such a big deal. It's a major test for the 14th Amendment, which guarantees citizenship to all persons born on U.S. soil. That does not just apply to kids with immigrant parents. That applies to the citizenship status of quite literally anybody they decide it does. Right now, the Trump administration's own implementation plan says a U.S. birth certificate alone would no longer be sufficient proof of citizenship for any child going forward. But as we know, every time this administration gets an inch, they take a mile. And at the end of the day, the White House is trying to challenge the idea that being born here makes you a citizen. Keep in mind, in the 1857 Dred Scott v. Sanford decision, the Supreme Court ruled that black people, whether free or enslaved, could not be citizens. The 14th Amendment comes into the picture to overturn Dred Scott and constitutionalize citizenship for the formerly enslaved people freed after the Civil War. They're attacking that part of the Constitution to get at immigrants, but it was a protection that was established with black people in mind. I know y'all see where I'm going with this. Now, the good news, the order hasn't taken effect. It's been blocked by lower courts this whole time, thus the Supreme Court fight. But that in mind, the Supreme Court sides with the Trump administration on this, and I unfortunately would not be surprised to be on here talking about how the White House is taking that further sometime in the near future. Share this video with somebody who you feel like needs to see it. I cover news, politics, and current events. Shoot me a follow to stay up.
The Supreme Court struck down President Trump's executive order seeking to restrict birthright citizenship, rejecting a central plank of the Trump administration's immigration agenda. I was in this very spot back in April when President Trump became the first sitting president in modern history to attend oral arguments in person for this case. But the decision is not surprising. We got indications from the justices that they very likely were going to rule this way. In fact, President Trump himself indicated that he didn't think the justices were going to side with his argument. The case centered on the executive order that President Trump signed on his very first day in office, which sought to restrict birthright citizenship to those with at least one parent who is a U.S. citizen or green card holder, meaning even the newborn children of those on temporary visas would not be eligible. But it came down to 5 words in the 14th Amendment Citizenship Clause, which says all persons born in the U.S. and, quote, subject to the jurisdiction thereof are U.S. citizens. And we saw the Supreme Court uphold that long-standing legal precedent today. The ruling had the potential to impact the nearly 255,000 children that are born to undocumented immigrants in the U.S. each year.
When it comes to the birthright citizenship ruling, while, I think this is, of course, a very large sigh of relief for people across the country. On the second hand, the fact that there are sitting justices that voted to compromise birthright citizenship is extremely alarming and tremendously concerning that this was even, I think, got to the level that it did. I'm of course glad that the Supreme Court voted to respect and uphold the Constitution of the United States, but I don't think it should have been, I don't even think it should have gotten to this point. I don't think it should have been the narrow ruling that it was.
Birthright citizenship officially holds, and not just that, it holds on a constitutional basis. The SCOTUS opinion was just handed down in a 6-3 decision, which is concerning. Why are 3 of you going against the Constitution? The 6 concurring justices are, unsurprisingly, Roberts, Sotomayor, Kagan, Barrett, and Jackson, with Thomas, Gorsuch, and Alito dissenting. What is wrong? Now, the fact that birthright citizenship itself is held is not entirely surprising. Many of us have been saying, like, we're pretty confident this is going to go through. The really big question was what the decision was going to be based on, whether it was going to be based on the Constitution, the 14th Amendment, or a statute or law that was passed by Congress. The reason it's important that it was held on the basis of the Constitution and not the law is the law itself can be repealed a lot more easily by Congress. So this is very, very good news, obviously. The other decisions today, not so good. Not so good on trans athletes and campaign finance decisions. Unsurprisingly, they did rule against protections for trans athletes in sports, but this was under 2 different questions. I can basically talk about those later and the basis that they were decided on. I just want to get this out. Birthright citizenship still holds, still stands. Even the children of undocumented immigrants, whomever, if you are born on U.S. soil, you are an American citizen. God bless America, which is just the people that make it up, including all of the American citizens being born on American soil right now, regardless of who their parents are or where they're from. This is a win. This is a win. Even though we knew this was coming, it is a bit of a relief.
Out of all of the ways that I thought President Trump would respond to the Supreme Court ruling that upheld birthright citizenship, him posting this was not at the top of my bingo card. I would like to congratulate President Xi and the great country of China on their massive birthright citizenship win. What the president is basically saying is that birthright citizenship is a win for China. But here's the irony, because this was President Trump about a year ago on the Laura Ingraham show.
We also do have to bring in talent. When
we have plenty of talented people here.
No, you don't.
We don't have talented people here?
No, you don't have certain talents, and people have to learn.
The reason that Ingraham pressed him so hard on this was because that came immediately after a couple things. That came immediately after Trump had announced that he was open to allowing 600,000 Chinese students to come into our country because, according to him, U.S. citizens, our own kids and young people, are not smart enough to be able to handle the overall investment in infrastructure, aka AI, technology, all of those things. This also came after he immediately sent a special envoy to South Korea to beg them to return to the Hyundai factory in Georgia. This is the hypocrisy, and this is how he panders to his base. He will call you and your kids stupid and not smart enough to do jobs in America while simultaneously putting blame on China for flooding our country with people while also opening up the gate for them. How are you not tired of being continually gaslit by him?
Breaking news from the Supreme Court. This is huge because the Supreme Court just ended Trump's attempt to end birthright citizenship. Trump issued an executive order saying that some children born in the United States should not be citizens if their parents were here undocumented or even here temporarily on a visa. And the Supreme Court said no. The Constitution says that all persons born in the United States, subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, are U.S. citizens. That means if your child is born in the United States, your child's a U.S. citizen. Even if you're undocumented, even if you're here on a student visa, a work visa, it doesn't matter. Even if you entered without inspection. There are very narrow exceptions, like children of foreign diplomats. But for almost everybody else, you're born in the United States, you're a U.S. citizen. And this is huge. Spoiler alert, this does not give the parents legal status. It doesn't stop the parents from being deported. It doesn't give the parents a green card. And the child can still not sponsor a parent until that child reaches 21. But that child's citizenship is protected. Now, Trump tried to rewrite the 14th Amendment by executive order, and the Supreme Court said, So if your baby was born in the United States and someone is telling you your baby's not a citizen, don't panic. Your child's a U.S. citizen. It's one of the biggest immigration decisions in years, one of the biggest immigration decisions by the Supreme Court. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think of the Supreme Court's birthright citizenship.
So it's so sad. I discovered that after shooting this video, the audio was already muted. So I'm just going to do it outside the video recording. Yes, the Supreme Court decision passed today, and 5 judges voted against Trump's end to birthright citizenship. Now, birthright citizenship has been something that has been part of America since the beginning of time, and it gets me to wonder, like, if this 14th Amendment didn't exist, probably the President Trump at this point in time wouldn't even be president, because from what I know from the history I saw, it seems his grandparents migrated here, or his great-grandparents, one of those from Germany to the United States. So he probably wouldn't have been president. This has been a foundation in America for the longest period of time. Sometimes I understand why he's trying to do it, but sometimes I look at it and be like, you got the advantage and you're trying to block other people from getting the same advantage. Now, he went on a Twitter rant and posted a tweet saying congratulations to China because of the birthright citizenship. I understand why. I understand the fear of national security or the likes, and I understand that some people also try to use the loopholes in the 14th Amendment to dodge to get kids in the United States. I understand that, but there are ways that it could easily be used to block such loopholes. Again, I don't think the 14th Amendment was wrong to give to kids who are born better of citizens, migrants, whoever in the United States citizenship, because that has been the core of America. That has always been the core. And I think at the end of the day, the American people won. We've seen the decision. I know 3 Supreme Court judges did not vote for that, and that could easily swing in the nearest future if this continues, if the pursuit continues. But I'm happy for the decision so far. I know maybe it's not good news for the Trump administration, but that is what it is, and I think majority of American citizens also wanted this as well. Thank you for watching this video, guys. If you love content like this, please do auto subscribe, give this video a like. And again, I'm so sorry for the fact that the audio in this video didn't come out. I don't know what was wrong with the microphone, but that's my bad. I hope you love this, and I'll see you shortly, guys. Bye bye.